Alright, so we're almost there. What I want to do now is I want to be able to show a list of the tasks that are in that particular list. Alright, so we have to do a few things. We have to make a join so we can join the list and the tasks tables together. So if we go to our list controller, so list.php under controllers, and we go down to the show method, that's this view right here. We're showing the list with the ID of 2. And you can see that I did comment out some things here earlier, and now we're going to tackle these and make it so we can display all the tasks. Alright, so we have 2 values in this data array here that we want to uncomment. One's completed tasks, one is uncompleted tasks. So basically we'll have 2 sections in the list that'll show completed tasks and uncompleted tasks. So the first thing we need to do is create these model methods. The first one is getListTasks, which takes an ID which is coming from the URL. So that's the ID of the list. Alright, so let's see. Let's copy that, go to the list model, and let's see. Alright, so we got function getListTask, and this here, the second parameter is going to be active. Alright, so this is going to tell us if the task is active, meaning complete or not. So the default is going to be true. Alright, so if the task is uncompleted, then it's going to be active. If it's complete, then it's not active. Alright, so we have to do things a little different here because we're going to be doing a table join. And I can actually show you that syntax. If we go to the documentation, the active record, let's search for join. So this is how we would do it. We're going to select something, in this case it's select everything, from the blogs table. Alright, now we have a blogs table and a comments table, and in the comments table each comment has a blog ID field. Okay, so what we want to do to bring these two together is do a this db join and bring in the comments table, and we want to match them comments.id, so the ID field in the comments should match the blog's ID. Alright, and then we can just do what we usually do and grab that. So you can see this active record code is the same as this standard SQL. Alright, so we're going to do that. And up until now we've been just using the this db get. We haven't actually said select because we haven't needed to. Alright, so what we're going to do here is say this db select. Now, since these two tables both have an ID field, things could get a little confusing if we just say select all. Alright, so if we just say select all, then we're going to have issues later on when we're trying to separate the task ID from the list ID because they're both named ID. So we have to select the actual fields that we want by name. Alright, so let's say we want to select the task name from the task table. So we can just say tasks dot task name. These should be in quotes. Alright, let's take a look at the table, the task table, and you can see we have task name. So we do want to select that because we're going to be displaying it. Actually, you know what? These don't need quotes. So do a comma, and we want the task body as well. So we're saying the table tasks. We want to grab the task body field or column. Alright, we also want the ID but like I said, we don't want to mix it with the list ID. So what we can do is say tasks.id as task_ID. So now when we're in the view, we can use this, and it'll know that we're talking about the ID in the task table and not the list table. Alright, so now we also want to get lists in the list table. We want to get the list name, and we want to get the list body as well. Alright, so that's how you can select individual rows or columns instead of just saying select everything. Alright, so what we need to do now is have a from. We need to say this db from, and the main table that we're trying to get here is tasks. Alright, so we're going to say select these tables from tasks. So now that we're selecting these fields or these columns from tasks, now we want to join in the list table. Alright, so here we're going to say this db join, and the first parameter that we're going to put here is the table, which is lists. Alright, so the next thing we want to put is where we want to relate these two tables. And let's just go back to phpMyAdmin for a second. I mean, you probably already understand this, but just in case. So we have a list table, alright, and we have some fields for each list, and we have a task table with some fields, and in this table we have a column called list ID. Alright, so this list ID is an integer. Alright, so you can see we have ones and twos here, and if we go back to lists, that field, that list ID field I just showed you, relates to the ID field here. Alright, so we have to claim that in this model, and that's what we're going to do right here. Basically we're going to say list.id equals tasks.listID. Alright, so we're saying the ID field in the list table is equal to the list ID field in the task table. So hopefully that makes sense. Alright, so now we need a where clause. I'm going to say this db where, and we're going to say where tasks.listID is equal to this variable list ID. Alright, actually we have to change this up here. Let's change this to list ID because that's where this is coming from. Okay, now we're going to also use another where clause, but it's going to be conditional. If you remember, we have this active here, which basically says if active is true, that means that the task is not complete. If this is false, then the task is complete. Alright, because if it's complete, then it's not active. So we're going to put in a conditional here and say I'm going to say if active is equal to true. Alright, and this is going to be an if else. So we'll say if active is equal to truth, then let's just grab this here, this where clause, and we're going to say this db where tasks dot is complete is equal to 0. Alright, because if it's true, if it's active, then it's not complete. So is complete will be a 0. And that is coming from tasks. That's coming from this field right here, okay? Which all of them are not complete right at the moment. we'll add a link that will allow us to mark them complete or incomplete. Alright, so same thing then if it's not active, so if active equals false, then we're going to say that it is complete. So we want that 1. Okay, so down here we want to say this db get, and before when we've used this db get, we would pass in the table name, but we're not going to do that because we used this select statement up here. So we're saying select these from tasks, and then we just leave this blank, but we do got to set a variable here. Okay, so now what we want to do is check and see if there's any rows. So check and see if there's any tasks, basically. So we'll say if query numRows is less than 1. Alright, so if the number of rows is less than 1, so basically 0, then we want to return false. Else we are going to, actually, you know what, we don't need an else. We're just going to go right under here and return query result. Alright, so in full, this method getListTask is just going to get all the tasks in a particular list. Alright, and let's see, where did we set that? getListTasks. Alright, so they'll be put in this value here, completed tasks. So next we have this uncompleted task is equal to the same function, getListTasks, except we're going to pass in false instead of true. So that'll give us both completed and uncompleted, and we can then use them inside of our view, which will be the show view. So let's do that. Save, and we want to go to lists and show. So under all of this, I'm actually just going to paste in a loop. So we're saying if completed tasks, which is coming from here, completed tasks, which is coming from this function in the model, getListTasks. Alright, and then we're putting out an li tag, which has a link to the actual task by ID, and it's using the task name as the anchor. Alright, and we're saying if else, so if there are no completed tasks, then we're just going to spit out this paragraph. So let's make sure that that's working. Alright, so it's saying that the column ID in our where clause is ambiguous, which means that it can't tell the task ID from the list ID. And it's not in the method we just created, because our where clause says where tasks.listID is list ID. So it's got to be in this here, this in the list model, the getList method. So let's go to this list model, getList. Yeah, we're trying to return the row even if it's not there. So we're going to edit this a little bit, this getList method. So we're going to say this db select, and we're going to select all. Alright, so now we need this db from, and this is going to be from the list table. And now for the where clause, we'll say this db where, let's see, where ID is equal to ID. query equals this db get, and we don't need anything inside the get because we're using select from. Alright, so now what we want to do is check the number of rows. We want to see if a list actually came back. So we'll say if query num rows is not equal to 1, then we want to return false. Well, because we should only be getting one record back because we're getting it by the ID. And then we're going to say else. Then we want to return query row. Okay, so let's save that. Reload. Alright, so now we're in our family stuff list, which shows all the tasks. If we go to our work stuff list, we see our work stuff tasks. And if we click on it, alright, so we're having a little issue because everything we click on goes to pick up kids for some reason. That's strange. Let's see. Alright, I know why this is happening. We need to go to our task model and get task. What we need to do is we need to have a join here as well. We need to join the lists in the task table. So I'm pretty much gonna get rid of this, and we want to do something like we did right here, where we select the fields and then we join in the list table. Alright, so let's see. This db select, and we're going to select the fields manually. So we want, let's see, task name and tasks dot ID, create date, body, is complete. Alright, so that's all the stuff in the task table. Now we want some of the list fields. We want list ID, but we're going to say as list ID, so there's no confusion. List dot list name, and finally lists dot list body. Okay, so we want to select those from tasks, and now we want to join in the list table, so we'll say this db join, and the table we want to join is lists, and here's where we want to specify the fields. So lists.id is equal to tasks.listID, and so that looks good. Now we want our where clause, so we'll say this db where. I'm going to say where tasks.id is equal to ID. Get. Now we want to check and see if any rows were returned. So if query num rows is not equal to 1, then we want to return false. Else, we want to return the query row. Alright, so let's see what that does. So if we go back to my lists, alright, let's see, we have a syntax error in the task model number 19. Oh, we need a semicolon here. Alright, so I'll click on family stuff, pick up kids, parents dinner. Alright, so now it's working. Dinner with wife, and the task view shows the date, the status, and the due date, and then a description. Alright, so we should be able to delete a task. Alright, we didn't set that up yet. Alright, so let's set up the delete. We can add a task, I know that. Okay, so that works. We can edit the task. Okay, so we can edit. So all we need to do now is we need to be able to delete the task, because right now it's not doing anything. So we want to go to our task controller, and I'm going to paste in the delete function. Alright, so it's calling this task model delete task. So let's go to the task model, and we need our delete task. So public function delete, and that's going to take in a task ID, and say this DB where where ID is equal to the task ID, and we're going to say let's see, this DB delete queries are very easy tasks, and then we're just going to return. Alright, so now we should be able to delete. Let me just make sure we get our messages. So we get this task deleted, should be in the list show view, and we have it right here, so that should be all set. Alright, list, we'll go to a task and delete undefined delete task. Whoops, we want tasks. Alright, delete list ID, task ID. Oh, I see. We're calling task model delete task. And in the model, you can see we're calling just delete, not delete task. So change that. Let's reload and try to delete it. And it's been deleted. Alright. Alright. One thing that I do notice is if we go to our tasks, all our tasks are not complete. Alright. So that's set to 0. In our view, in our list view where we're displaying our tasks, we have if completed tasks, and that's wrong. It should be if active, because active tasks mean that they're not complete. So we're going to change this inside of the list controller, and right here where we have this completed tasks, let's change this to active tasks. Alright, and then here is going to be the inactive tasks. Alright, I just want to change that because it doesn't really make sense. Alright, so then back in the view, all we need to do is change this to active tasks. Change this to active tasks. Alright, and above this I'm going to put in a heading. Alright, and then below this I'm just going to copy this, and we're going to say completed tasks, and this is going to be inactive. Same thing right here. And then down here I'm going to say there are no completed tasks, and here we'll say there are no active tasks. Okay, so let's see, let's reload. Alright, so let's actually go to the other list, which has a bunch of tasks, and let's set one of these. We'll say pick up sun. We'll change this to 1, which means it's complete, and then if we reload, that's under the completed tasks. Alright, so one of the main thing that we have left to do is we need to be able to mark a task complete. Alright, so if we go in, we want to be able to click mark complete and have it switch, which we don't have implemented yet. So we'll do that in the next video, and then we should be all set.